What makes a person of interest? Coach Michael Burke cuts to the chase, interviewing some of the biggest names in the world. How do they think? What makes them tick? What are their thought processes? And how they became a person of interest.
Excited about doing big things in the world. One of the reasons you want to be a person of interest is at some point, Maxwell said this, at some point you move from wanting to be successful. Like to me, from 20 to 30 was about me. Selfish. How could I look? How many games can I win? Right? 30 to 40, I start thinking, about others. Man, I hit 40 years old and I kind of moved to a different period of my life. And I'm really moving from success to significance. And Maxwell said, once you taste significance, success will never satisfy you. Once you really start doing big things in the world, you'll never want to go back. It's like, you see this picture of me speaking at 10X behind me. Once you speak to 10,000 people at Mandalay Bay, man, it's hard. Everything else is hard. It's hard because, right? Once you climb to the top of Mount Everest, man, what do you do next? Astronauts have very high depression rates. They have very high suicide rates and they have very high divorce rates. Because once you've prepared to go to the moon or space, man, what do you do after that? You come home, you get depressed. That's what you do.
Yeah.
So tonight we're going to be talking about, we're going to be moving from what we talked about, which was the first big question. The first big question we had was what both fascinates you and motivates you. Okay. That's right, Carlos. People who've never owned a jet always say you shouldn't own one. I had a moment yesterday, guys. I was at the airport. I've been coaching all day. It's at the private airport where I was sitting up on a second level about to do a conference call with all my monster producers. And I was looking at my private jet out on the runway. And I very seldom take a minute to stop, to celebrate, to just think, man, look at this, man. I'm about to freaking get on a private jet and fly home. There's my jet sitting on the runway, like just sitting there. They're fueling it up. They're ready to take me home. I'm going to be home in an hour and a half from Houston. Right? On my plane. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, this is cool. Like, this is just so freaking cool. Like that I get to do this. That's part of being a person of interest. People of interest do cool things. They do extraordinary things. They don't do common things. They don't live common lives. They don't do common things. They don't do they're not interested in ordinary, man. They're interested in pulling up, getting on their own private jet and flying home. That's what they're interested in doing. And doing it again tomorrow somewhere. So the first question we had in the first week was what both fascinates you and motivates you. And this is important. I was coaching a young kid today and he said, I'm 30 years old, man. I'm bored. I'm stuck. I'm complacent. I'm doing good. See, you want something that both fascinates you and motivates you. That could do so for the rest of your life. Like I could wake up and just think about this, study this, come up with formulas around this forever. Like, man, I'm in. This is so interesting to me. The opposite of interesting is boring. People of interest are not boring. It's like when you're with them, they're interesting people. It's like, man, that's cool. What that dude is doing is cool. Part of the reason I'm building out this greatness factory is because it's cool. It's not called the complacency factory or the mediocre factory. If it's the mediocre factory, hey, come on down with 10 minutes of coaching and a Bud Light, man. That's what happens at the complacency factory. Okay. And there would be a lot of people buy that, Cody, by the way.
Yeah, there would.
So first question, I would love to hear from some folks. Cody, if you give some thought to that, what did you come up with that you said, man, this both, because I know you're about to write a book. We're working on that today for you.
Oh.
And I was thinking about that for you. There's a lot of things you can write a book on.
Yeah.
Picking something that you say, man, this motivates me. Like Pray Drive, writing a book on Pray Drive motivates me because there's so many people need it. Yep. It's universal. I mean, that book can be bought by millions of people. Okay, so it's universal. Being known for something, being known as the #1 activator of Pray Drive excites me. It motivates me. So when people say, I want you to talk about it, I don't care if I've talked about it 100 times. I can talk about it again. 10X motivates Cardone. He could talk about it forever, right? For you, you know, you're deciding, because you're a young guy, you're deciding, hey, this motivates me, man. I could do all these things, but out of all these things, I want to do this.
Yep.
What have you been thinking about?
Yeah, the 8% concept has always fascinated and motivated me. You know, I mean, I look back 5 years ago when I chose to pursue becoming a person of interest. A lot of people see it now and they're like, you know, it looks easy. It looks like it happened overnight. You know, it's almost 5 years here in a couple of months. You know, it takes some time, but I love that you mentioned, as long as it fascinates and motivates you, and me being the number one dude in the insurance industry, both fascinates and motivates me. And I do not get bored. You know, I'm always challenged. I'm always like, yeah, there's some moments here and there, sure. But as long as I'm thinking bigger and pushing towards being the number one dude in this space, it both fascinates and motivates me, you know, and that concept of 8%, super fascinating and super motivating to me because of the fact that so many freaking people fell in this industry. And that's something that I know I've got a song to sing in relation to that because of my background.
Now, I want to take you from this concept of identification, because if you could see my notes here that I drew up, we're kind of working you through the notes that I created for when I spoke at 8%. What we're doing is we're working through this concept that eventually we want to say this: I have found my voice in life.
Mm-hmm.
This is my calling. This is what I'm going to, when my life is over, I want you to think Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, JP Morgan, right? Henry Ford, Martin Luther King, the greats, right? What they were known for something. Okay. Where we're going to end up at the end of our 4 weeks is you having this big revelation, which is our topic tonight: revelation, conviction, action. And I want you to be able to say at the end of 4 weeks, this is it, man. I want to be known for this. We did a coaching summit last week, and we had the number one door-to-door salesperson in the world at my coaching summit. Okay. When we left after 2 or 3 days of him spending at my lodge, we said, no. You don't need to position yourself as the number one door-to-door salesperson in the world. You need to position yourself as the number one face-to-face salesperson in the world. See how much bigger that is?
Yep.
See, he came in thinking, I want to be number one door-to-door guy. I'm the number one. He is the number one solar door-to-door guy in the world, as best we know, right?
Yes.
But we're trying to get him to go, no. It's too small. You want to tell people. So he started doing videos saying, hi, I'm Michael O'Donnell. I'm known as the number one face-to-face salesperson in the world. Like, he started positioning himself that way. Okay. So first we have to identify what we want to be known for. Okay. Then, and here's the deal. A chapter in my new book, I know a lot of people say start with why, find your why. I love Simon Sinek. There's a chapter in my new book called Screw Your Why. And you say, well, man, it's kind of strong. Listen, I've been coaching people for 28 freaking years, folks. Here's what I would tell you. The way I found my purpose was by doing something. I didn't sit in a room and meditate about it. I did it. Cody didn't know he wanted to be 8% until he started doing 8%. I believe you don't find your purpose. My personal belief is your purpose finds you. And it finds you when you're doing something. I didn't know I wanted to have 9,000 square foot at this office building until I started coaching the mortgage company that a billionaire owned, and they happened to have 9,000 square foot overlooking Nashville. Said, no, we want you to have it here. I'm like, great, this is awesome. Now, my point is, first step of being a person of interest is identification. This motivates me. It fascinates me. Third thing, I want to be known for something. I don't just want to be a person on planet Earth. I don't want to be a good dude or a good woman. I want to contribute more. I want to help millions of people or a few people. That's up to you, okay? So the first step is identification. And I wrote on my notes, this typically comes through experience. It comes through failure. It comes through curiosity. And it typically becomes because there's a teacher or mentor or guide in your life. Okay? There's a teacher, there's a mentor, there's a guide. Then I'm curious, like, man, what about that? How do we do that? So I've identified, this is what I want to be known for. I've identified I want to be the #1 activator prey drive on the planet. Cody's identified as, man, I want to be the #1 insurance, help more insurance people in the world. Get in the 8%, right? Like, that's what I want to be known for. Okay? I would love to see what some of you guys have come up with. What do you want to be known for? Zach Price and Carlos and Michael Weller. What do you want to be? Okay?
There we go. Malia jumped in there.
I like that. Business matchmaker. Teach people what it takes to build referral partners. That is, listen, the referral piece is so good.
Yes.
There's a guy named Joe Stump. Joe Stump became known as like the referral machine. And he made a fortune, Malia, by just teaching that one concept. How to drive referrals.
Yep.
Okay. Holly Perry said problem solver.
Good.
So when you think about it, Holly, say, look, I want to be known as a person that solves this problem. Okay. I saw where Richard Branson valued Richard Branson's Virgin Orbit at $1 billion or something. He was raising $200 million because he wants to put people on an airplane and fly them to space. This is a big trend that's happening. Him, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. Look at these dudes, man.
Yeah.
They're not sitting around going, hey, how do we solve a little bitty problem? They're sitting around going, you know what? Let's figure out a way to take a human to space. They're going to make a fortune doing it, by the way. You know how much you're selling those tickets for? $250,000 a seat, Cody. If you want to fly to space, it's $250,000 for one flight. And people are paying it. They're already sold out. They pre-sold the tickets. So my point is, when you're thinking about solving problems, just remember, money changes hands when problems are solved. The bigger the problem, the more money people pay to solve that problem.
Yep.
Now, once we identify the area that both fascinates and motivates us, we then activate our prey drive. Our prey drive is activated. Okay? And that is activated by competition, fear of loss, exposure, environment, or embarrassment. I use every one of those, by the way. I'm competitive. I want to win. I have a fear of loss. I don't want to lose what I built. I got exposure. I want to be around big time people. I've placed myself in environments, and I don't want to be embarrassed and live a life that's ordinary. Okay. So once I know what my area is, now I'm going to refine my area. This is over long cycles of time. It's very important. Mastery is 10 years of practice. Now, I'm going to step back and ask Cody this question. Over the last 3 years, Cody has been exposed to Grant Cardone, Tim Story, Jordan Belfort, Marshall Silver, Coach Burt, Matt Monero, and Judge Graham. I could go on and on. Ray Lewis, Michael Irvin. Okay. Those are all people of interest. Yes or no?
Yes.
What do they all have in common what do you think they all have in common?
They are all want to do something. They're all wanting to do something big in the world.
Right.
They're all want to do something big in the world. That's why I'm looking at tonight thinking, there's a few people that were on last time that aren't on this time. And you always talk about step one is to show up.
Oh, well.
And I respect those people that are going to keep showing up because that's what it takes, because I think about 5 years ago, I had the idea. We always talk about like idea to execution. I had the idea to start the YouTube channel, to want to become a person of interest. What if I would have added time and not actually done it?
Yeah, it's good.
I wouldn't know you. I wouldn't be hanging out with you right now, Right. I think a lot of people miss that.
Yeah, from idea, they all have ideas and they all take action. The separator is not smarts, folks. It's not intelligence. It's big time people take big time actions every day.
Yep.
They take big time risk every day. One of the things that I would say they all have in common in my experiences with those is As Wallace D. Wattles talked about in The Science of Getting Rich, they are persons of advancement.
Mm.
When you are with them, you get the feeling of increase. Wallace Wattles called it the impression of increase. Right? When you're around them, it's like, man, these are big time dudes. Like they're doing big things. You want to listen. You're attracted to them. You want to be around them. You want to spend time with them. You want to go places with them. You want to ask them questions. They put off the impression of increase.
Yes.
That's what people of interest do. Now, why? They got high prey drive, right? They've identified what it is they're good at. Okay. They have refined. This is the part I'm trying to make a point to right here. They have had long cycles of refinement, meaning they've been doing it for years and years and years and years and years. Okay. So if you study mastery, some people have not put the work in to be a master. They're cotton candy, man.
Mm.
You'll never be a big time person of interest because you'll be found out. You'll be a fraud. People will say, man, that dude ain't the real deal. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all cotton candy. It's all just energy. There's nothing there. Nothing under the hood. You want substance. You want energy and substance. So let's talk about that. You've picked your area. Now there's going to be a cycle of what I call testing and results. You're going to have feedback. Okay, so let me ask you a couple questions. Where do you get the most energy? Where do you get the most energy? Where do you get the most positive feedback? See, we don't do enough autopsy. Jim Collins talked about doing an autopsy on everything. We don't look back and say, man, I really got a lot of energy when I did that. I really hate when I do that. Okay. I love coach group settings. I told my team today, I said, don't ever, this is a direct text I send them, ever schedule another one-to-one coaching session with me and anybody. I don't care who they are. I said, I ain't doing it. I love coaching people in groups.
Yes.
I don't care if it's 10 people. I don't care if it's 4 people. I don't care if it's 4,000 people. What I don't like is one-to-one. Okay. I don't get any energy from it. Typically the other person's sucking the energy out of me. Okay.
Mm.
Now, here's the deal. I don't want to be known as the number one-to-one coach in the world. I want to be known, right? I'm great in teams. I'm great in groups. I'm great in front of people. That's what I want to do. Like an artist, like an entertainer. I want to show up and sing songs. Now, I've had a revelation. That's what we're going to ask you tonight. I'm going down a path just like Cody, and I've coached Cody on this. You're going to start your coaching business.
Yeah.
And the first thing you're going to do is go out there and start coaching people. And then you're going to wake up one day and go, I hate doing this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like this at all. What I really like to me, doing 8% is fun to you, no matter how exhausted you were, no matter you couldn't see straight, no matter, right? It's fun. It's like, man, it's energy. Like, it's awesome.
Yes.
So the question is, how does Cody replicate? And he's driving his person of interest score. How does he replicate that? Does he do little 8% conferences around the world? Does he do feeder conferences that feed into the big conference? Does he do masterminds, which I know he loves doing, right? Like, how does he build a business that is highly profitable and highly enjoyable? That he goes home at night and he tells his wife, sweetheart, I had the time of my life today.
Mm.
I made a fortune. I loved it. Like, my model, so you guys understand the economics of this, in 2021 is do events at my lodge in Tennessee with 50 people and make $500,000 in 2 days. That's it. Doing what? Doing what I love doing. Doing it where? Where I love doing it. With whom? People I love doing it with. That is possible. I wish somebody would have came along and coached me early on in my career and said, look, structure this business around this. So what am I asking you? What is your revelation?
Yeah.
Revelation is a big aha moment. I hate doing this and I love doing this, because you'll never be a person of interest at something you hate doing. Everybody see that? William Berry, it's good. Center on progress. I have a passion for helping other people. Okay. Business COP. I like that. So here's the deal. The question then becomes, after you've had the revelation, now you have the conviction. and you're like, I'm putting a stake in the ground. I'm going to become known for this.
Hmm.
I'm going to have conviction. Every time I talk about it, I'm going to have conviction. Every time I'm exposed to it, I'm going to have conviction. Right? Like I'm going to have so much conviction, it's going to be coming out of my ears. Now, let me ask you a question, Cody. Of all those people you mentioned earlier, the Jordan Belforts and the Marshall Silvers prospecting me right now.
Yeah, me too. He texted me at 10 o'clock last night.
Oh, yeah. He's working his prospecting list.
Dude, he's doing it too.
He wants to coach us, work with us.
That's right.
Now,
That's
and
funny.
I got an idea on how to do that. Now, here's my point. Do you think every one of those dudes and women have a high degree of conviction? Yes or no?
Yes.
High degrees of conviction. They believe that they're the best in the world.
Yes, they do. Marshall Silver definitely does.
That's right. Whether they are or not,
Yeah.
they believe it. I heard Ed Milet say this once. It's not enough for you to believe it. I have to believe that you believe it. When I get on that stage, I believe that everybody needs a coach in life. There is no question. Why? Long cycles of testing and feedback, growing skills. So for you, I would love to hear what some of you had this big revelation. Some of you are doing the wrong thing. I asked a kid today, 30 years old, he's sitting there telling me he's bored. I'm like, man, what are you doing? Like, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. We wouldn't be having this conversation if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. We ain't talking about your job, man. We're talking about your life.
Yeah.
I see this all the time. I'm like, what are you supposed to be doing, man? Because it ain't this. We're majoring in the minors talking about these little bitty problems you got because you ain't found your voice in life. Okay? When Cody was just an insurance dude, he hadn't found his true voice in life. There was a bigger play for him.
Yes.
Now he's walking in his destiny, what he's supposed to be doing. And listen, how old are you, Cody?
30 now. I'm just got old.
30 years old, right? Listen, 5 years from today, he may have a bigger revelation. Boom, man, this is a way to do this internationally.
Yep.
This is a way to get 50,000 insurance agents at a conference. If WFG can get 50,000, if PHP can get 50,000, if Primerica can get 50,000, why can't we get 50,000?
Amen.
Like there's a revelation there. So the cycle is first I have a big revelation. Okay. Then I have a conviction. Then I take an action. Okay. The revelation I had at 25 years old, then I want Cody to give some of his so you guys can get it, is I was a high school basketball coach. I was fascinated and motivated, Cody, by inner engineering people. The basketball was good. Running the plays was good. I was a great offensive mind. I could structure practices like nobody's business. I could package a concept. But what I was really fascinated by was how do I motivate a person at the highest level? How do I get more out of this person? That was what I loved doing. So at 25 years old, I said, man, I'm going to write a book on this. That was the revelation I had. Well, I write the book, and I was trying to sell it to coaches, but coaches wouldn't buy it. Remember, you don't find your why finds you. So I write a book thinking, man, I'm going to teach all these other little coaches how to coach. They wouldn't buy it. They wouldn't buy my book because they're stubborn. They didn't want to learn from one of their competitors. So guess who bought my book? Business people. And I got asked to go speak on my book. I speak, they pay me more in an hour than I made in a month. Guess what I had? Revelation. And I first understood this concept. Okay, now hear me out on this, because people of interest are playing big. Sharon Lecter talks about the big play movement. They're not playing small. I'm down in Florida. I'm with one of my friends. He's 38 years old. He's 8 years older than you, Cody, right now. He built a real estate company in 5 years, 700 agents, sold it for $12 million. So now he's got 4 million and he's 38. He goes down to Florida. He sits out by the pool all day long. He walks around in his robe, goofing off, playing tennis, man. Stuff I would never do. And I go down there and I spend time with him. And I said, man, let's just talk about business. And he said, oh, Coach, the way you think and the way I think is all different. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're a grinder, man. You get up, you grind, it's hard. He said, you and I are both fishing. The difference is you're fishing for blue gills in Percy Priest Lake. That's a little lake in Tennessee. He said, I'm fishing for blue marlins in the Gulf of Mexico. He said, I build something and work on the infrastructure to sell it. You go out there every day, work the muscle. And he taught me this concept of blue gill versus blue marlins. Blue gills are little bitty problems of which you make little bitty money. Let me tell you what that means. Selling one little insurance policy. That's a blue gill. So a blue marlin selling a big insurance policy to a wealthy person, or selling 5,000 insurance policies at one time, right? Or selling it in scale. Yeah. That's blue marlin. Blue marlin is me putting 50 people in a room and making $500,000 in 2 days versus $500,000 in a year. That's blue marlin thinking.
Yes.
Okay. So Cody, when you're thinking about this revelation, so here's my revelation, folks. 25 years old, they pay me more in an hour than I make in a month. And I'm like, dang, this is where the money is. Corporate America is where the money is. It's not me over here coaching basketball. Okay. I have a skill set. This is what I want you to come to, guys. I want you to come to the revelation that you have a skill set that the market will pay you for, bigger than what you're currently making. I'm going to be a person of interest in the world. People are going to pay me. I was just negotiating with this mortgage company, and they agreed to, I asked for $1 million, okay, to be their coach. They agreed to a $500,000 base with a $250,000 bonus, and to pay for my events a la carte. I had asked for $250,000 to do events for them. And I said, I'll do 36 events, but I'll give you a discount. They said, we don't want the discount. We can't do 36 events in a year, but we can do X number. We would like to just pay you your full fee for those events, which means we do 10 events, 25,000. We still get to the $250,000. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
And there's no discount. My point is, that's the revelation I had is up until this, the most money I'd ever asked for was $350,000. Wow. So for asking for $500,000, or even asking for $1 million, even though I didn't get the $1 million, we could get to the $1 million. We just may get there in a different way than the way I proposed it. Now, what's my point to you? My point is I've had revelation in my life. I'm clear. I am now fishing for blue marlins versus blue gills. I'm not dealing with little bitty problems, folks. I'm dealing with billion-dollar companies. I'm dealing with groups. That's why we're doing this for you. We want you to think bigger. So Cody, give the groups some big revelations you've had about the insurance business, because that's what all these folks are in. They're trying to be people of interest in the world, but they happen to sell insurance.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So I mean, I've had several along the way. At 20, making 117 grand, I learned I was really good at building at the sales game, building relationships, overcoming objections, and closing. 3 things I'm extremely good at, right? Mm-hmm. At 21, I have a sales manager that challenges me to go help 2 brand new agents that are struggling, not making any sales. I drive 4 hours. I help them make 5 or 6 sales in a day, and I leave. And I leave thinking that I had a revelation that moment that if I get a chance to do that again, I want to be doing that in the future. I mean, I remember a revelation at 10 years old, wanting to be a public speaker. Like we all have these, and now I'm getting to travel and do it. You're having me on the cruise, speaking at events, etc. At 24, I had a revelation that I want to start a local mentorship program and help agents. And that's where I really got into, started helping agents. But I finally did it several years later when I knew I wanted to do it 3 years earlier. 25, revelation that I want to be known in the insurance industry. So I started the YouTube channel. 27, going to 10X, meeting you, meeting Cardone, deciding, hey, the insurance industry needs something that's not freaking boring and still and has some freaking spunk to it. Let's throw 8% Nation conference. That's a revelation because I'm sitting in the audience. I'm over in that picture. I'm to the left of your head over off the on the front row, but you can't see me. I'm too close. Maybe I don't know. In that picture, and then 28. You getting to know you gave me the revelation to start doing retreats. Yeah. Right. And we absolutely, that's one of my favorite things to do. It's a freaking blast, man. I absolutely love it. Totally love it. Yeah. And then another, revelation over the last year. since I was at the coaching summit, I think October of last year probably, is writing a book. And I'm actually finally putting that idea into execution. I'm tired of thinking about it and pondering, and maybe I want to do it. I don't want to do it. So I'm gonna just hire you guys to do it, right? Yep. That's a revelation. Finally got to do it. That'll help my person of interest score. It'll help agents. You know what I mean? It's a good lead magnet, etc. Several of these were brought on because of you being in my life. And dude, you just gave me another revelation today that the conference shouldn't grow to 10,000, it should grow to 50,000. And now I'm thinking bigger just because we're spending some time here, you know? And so those are several revelations that I've had in my life. And I know that by hanging out with people like you and other big time people, right, that are persons of advancement, yep, I'm going to keep having those revelations as we go.
Now, I want you to listen to all those revelations that he had, because this is how you become a person of interest, is you have a big dramatic moment. And because of the moment, you now have a conviction. Because of the conviction, you now take an action. Okay. And that's the cycle of people of interest go through. The reason you sense, I'm trying to go real deep with you tonight. I'm trying to help you understand that the reason you sense that these people have so much depth to them is because they have so much depth to them. They're not superficial. They're not cotton candy, right? Like you say, you know, Ron Ray said he was there at 10X. People can say what they want to about Cardone. I've listened to Cardone for hundreds and hundreds of hours. He has a deep depth and a philosophy about what he believes, about his thoughts on money, about his thoughts on selling, about his thoughts on running an organization, about the mistakes he's made in his life, about, right, like it don't matter if you like him or not. So does Belfort. Belfort has been through everything he's been through. He's had time to cultivate clear philosophies on life about what he believes and what he doesn't believe.
Yep.
So what I'm trying to get to you is when I meet people, there's something that attracts me to them. Like, this dude has some substance. This is a true game changer. This is a person who's been through it. This is a person who knows, right? And I when I meet people, I'm like, there's nothing under the hood, man. They haven't put the work in. They haven't really done anything. They don't have a machine. They haven't had this long obedience. They have had no revelations. They don't have any conviction. And what you sense about those people is like, man, it's, you know, I know one kid that you guys don't know who he is, but he puts out a lot of videos, and people are always asking me about him. And I'm like, man, I haven't seen any evidence that the guy's actually done anything. Like, I think it's all good videos, and I think he looks good, and he's packaged up nice, and he's a good looking dude, and all that's great. But big time people can sniff that out very quickly. They're like, I don't know, what's the dude actually done? Has he sold anything? Has he built anything? Has he created anything? Has he made any money? Like, people of interest are not people of talk. They're people of action. They have done something big. Like in 2017, there were 500,000 people in the United States that earned $1 million a year personally. There were only 4,000 people that climbed to the top of Mount Everest. 500,000 people made $1 million. 4,000 people climbed to, man, look, what is it? It's easier to make $500,000 than it is to climb the top of Mount Everest, folks. Okay? But if you climb to the top of Mount Everest, you've done something most people will never do. Okay? So think of it this way. What revelations have you had? You're out there in the market doing it. You're doing it. You're doing it. You go, oh, no, that ain't where I need to go. Boom. This is the revelation I've had. This is where I can become known. Okay? And then you test it. This is what I talked about in our notes. You test the cycle, and the market gives you feedback. Okay? Now, let me give you an example. I spoke to 2 different groups in Houston, Texas. One was a multi-level marketing group. When I showed up, my plane landed at 8:32 in Houston. I was supposed to speak at 9 a.m. I got off the plane, in the car, straight to the event. I got there at 8:59. When I walked in, they had 2 rows of people clapping, cheering. It's like I was running through the tunnel. Music was glaring. The people were primed. I mean, they were so excited to get started. I'm like, man, I love this. This is who I need to be working with. They're waiting on me to show up. I roll in there on Monday to coach these window people. They're sitting there like this. I got to round them all up. Come on now. Come on, folks. Get it. I got to get their energy up. I got to play music to get them excited. I got to spend the first 3 hours trying to wake them up. I'm like, man, this ain't the group I need to be working with. That's the group. Look at how drained I am. Look how exhausted I am after this, right? I was getting energy from the first group. So what's the revelation? Man, these are the groups I need to be working with. These multi-level marketing people are hungry. They're hungry, man. They show up clapping, cheering, excited, yelling. They just start clapping right in the middle of the presentation. They're hungry. You ain't got to get them excited and get them motivated. Now, what I'm telling you is, if you're ever going to be a person of interest in the world, it's like the artist distributing their talent to the audience and the audience singing the songs back to the artist. And you're like, this is it, man. It can't get any better. When I spoke at that 10X event, man, they were so hungry. When I speak to those door-to-door people, man, they're so freaking hungry. It's like a distribution. It's like, give me more, give me more, give me more, give me more, give me more. You got to decide, who do you want to work with? What do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? What do you want to become? Okay. I think I said this at the beginning, and then we'll let Cody kind of unpack some of this. I've given the eulogy at 2 different funerals for 2 different people that I couldn't find anything to say about them. They lived on planet Earth for a period of time. One of them was almost 80. And I asked people around them, man, what did they do? They didn't do anything. They were just a good person. That's all they did. They didn't accomplish anything. They didn't achieve anything. They didn't produce anything. They didn't create anything. Like, I asked a bunch of people around them, give me something I can say at the funeral. And there was nothing for me to say. You know how depressing that is? I don't want to get to the end of my life and go, man, that dude did little bitty things, had a bunch of talent. I wanted to do so many cool things. They're like, man, I got to pick 1 or 2 or 3. Out of everything Coach Bird did, he built greatness factories, and he helped millions of people, and he won championships in basketball. And that's a person of interest, doing something, not just doing nothing. So Cody, when you're thinking about feedback, let's help them with feedback here.
Yeah.
Because most insurance people think selling insurance, hard to sell. That's the first thing they think. It's real hard to sell.
Yeah.
I'm selling a commodity. Like, this ain't exciting. It ain't sexy. How do they determine who they want to work with and what their blue Marlins are?
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing that I learned quickly is when I was polling Facebook groups back in early 2018 for 8%, I actually planned on it being a final expense only conference. Now I can't even imagine it being a final expense only conference when literally 20% of the room actually does final expense, but that was something I thought. But then, I started testing, I started to get some feedback and some results. I started to learn from some of those decisions. Now, like, for example, when we're choosing where to go for the conference, like, we've got people, voting at the conference. We got surveys going out. We're constantly putting stuff up on social right now. We're talking to places in Vegas. We're talking to places in Dallas, talking to places in Orlando, and that's some feedback to help us with some of the decisions, that we got to make. I love how I love the revelation, conviction, action. There's a lot of people that, get ideas. They have revelations. They have a conviction, right? It means something to them, but most people fall off the wagon, as you say, before they get to the action piece. Like I said earlier, idea to execution. The difference in all those big time people you mentioned earlier is they actually executed. And I'm right, Malia. I'm glad Malia as well. Thank you. They actually executed on what they wanted to do in their life. And a lot of people, all these ideas that are coming up, they can absolutely become reality. They can't become reality today or tomorrow, but they can become reality in the future once we really start to take some action. So I'm excited as we get towards the end of tonight for people to start sharing some action steps of things that they are going to do and absolutely going to execute on because of a result of tonight.
If you don't have the revelation, folks, you just go down the path of selling insurance. I just sell insurance, man. And there's thousands of insurance people in the world. When I started working with North Star, I walked into their call center and I looked at it. First thing I said, you should buy the whole building. you should buy the whole building.
Mm.
And I said, I know you're in the call center business selling insurance, and I get that, but I think there's bigger future for you. I think you could run call centers for companies all over the world. That's the difference between a $25 or $50 million opportunity and a $100 million opportunity. Everything I look at today, guys, I look at Blue Gill versus Blue Marlin. I don't want to help one person. I want to help 10,000 people. I don't want to sell one insurance agent. I want to sell the whole company. Right? I don't think of State Farm getting one. I do think when you're building your business, you got to get one. Like I had to get one little State Farm agent, but now I'm interested in how to get all 17,000. Right? How do I put together something for 17,000? That's Blue Marlin. So that's the revelation I had. Now I wrote on my notes, your skills must be strong enough. Money doesn't buy you freedom. Skills buys you freedom. And who would write you the largest check? What's the largest check you've ever cashed? And where did it originate? Meaning, where did it start? Did it start at a meeting? Did it start at a networking event? Like who wrote you the largest check? And where did it originate? Where did it come from? Right? This is a big revelation because some of you just spend all your time every day chasing little blue gills. And you get to the end of the day and you're exhausted. You've dealt with little bitty problems. You've made a little bitty money and you're frustrated, man. You're frustrated because you know there's a bigger play for you. Okay? And so what you got to do is you got to step back and you got to ask these questions because the next step in person of interest, guys, is branding, in my opinion. Branding is becoming known.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm working on a book deal right now on Prey Drive with McGraw-Hill. That's a major publisher. You got Wiley, McGraw-Hill, Simon & Schuster, Penguin, and my agent sent me a message yesterday that said McGraw-Hill's interested. Now, what's the value of that? What's the value of a major published deal? All the bookstores, all the airports, all the, right? What's the deal? Once I say, look, I want to be known for this, then it's a matter of how can I go out there and become known? A book. How do I get a television show? How do I speak on stages around the world? How do I have Facebook ads at work and Instagram? How to become known? How do you get 4 million views on YouTube? There was a comedian that got married at my lodge this weekend. She's had 2 million views on her. That's how she became famous. She used to go out at work, Cody. She was a refinancer at a desk job. She used to go out on her lunch break and shoot these videos where she said, I ain't doing it. I ain't doing this and I ain't doing that. And then she used the Snapchat app that made her face look funny. She got 2 million views. Then she got 2 book deals. She's on a comedy tour where she's going around the world, selling out tickets everywhere. She became famous. And she just would go out at lunchtime and do these videos. But so here's my point. After we know these things, I've had the revelation, I got the conviction, I'm taking action, I want to be known for this. I'm building demand for my skill, right? Then I know what a blue gill is versus a blue marlin. Now I'm going out into the marketplace and I'm like, now I want to be known. How do I become known? Okay, and we'll get into that next time. But what you've done is hundreds of videos on YouTube, putting on your own conferences, about to write your own book. Every insurance person in the world should be doing these things.
Oh yeah, I got to get to 4 million. I'm at 3.3, so we're getting there. But yeah, a couple thousand videos later. You're right. It's been a lot.
So I want to hear from you guys. What questions do you have? Somebody asked a great question in here. When is enough enough? Michael Flores, that's a great question because I just did a video on this yesterday. I actually didn't do a video on it. I did a post on it when I was sitting in Houston looking at my plane out there. I was so grateful, and I almost started crying. I just said, man, I was a basketball coach. I'm sitting here right now looking at my jet. I can't even believe it. It was just a moment of man, I almost broke down. Man, I've worked 28 years of 80-hour work weeks to be able to do this. It was such a kind of a emotional moment. I was tired and I was like, man, this is crazy. Then I said, look, I'm grateful, but I'm not satisfied. I'm grateful, but I'm not satisfied. So you can be humble and not satisfied. You can be content. The Bible talks a lot about contentment, but it also says you were hardwired to take dominion. You can't take dominion and be lazy. You can't, right? You can't expand your territory like the prayer of Jabez says and stay put. So Cody should be thinking, okay, we got 1,000 people. I'll be getting 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Once we get to 10, how do we get to 50? So it's not a question of when is enough enough. It is a question of how far do you want to take your potential? You want to take it some of the way, part of the way, or all the way? So that's a great question, man. I've studied that question a lot because I don't ever want to be greedy. I'm grateful, man, but I'm hungry. Okay, let's take some of these questions, Cody.
Let's do it.
After you've had the revelation, where do you look to build the action plan? Zach, here's the question. Once you've had the revelation, that's a sudden dramatic moment. I believe big breakthroughs happen through small actions. So what I mean by that is I take a series of small actions every day. I work a selling system. I pick up the phone. I initiate a phone call. I start with one relationship. I get started, and then it grows. So the action plan for me is a daily, consistent set of actions that I take that open doors for me. I call it a selling system, but it's really an opportunity system.
I've seen it to be true traveling with you as well, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to wake up every day. It ain't sexy, but I wake up every day and I call on new people and I try to close people and I work my biggest relationships, right? And I plan events all day, every day. And what happens is it opens opportunity. And I don't know where that opportunity is going to go, by the way. All right. Cody may call me and say, look, I want to do something in Cabo with just me, me and you and our wives. I want to do something in Cabo with you. Okay, great.
I'm in.
That's going to introduce us to new people. Right. So I don't know where I see too many people. I heard this yesterday. Too many people want to put parameters on the opportunity. I don't know what the opportunity is until I work the muscle. It may not be a good opportunity. It may be. So too many people say, well, it won't work or can't work for me. All I do every day is know I get up and take a series of actions. And those actions lead me to something positive. I don't know what it's going to be. All right, Cody, take one of the questions.
Here we go. How do you know you are thinking big enough? I mean, for me, I think it's Will. For me, I don't think I am. I haven't so far. I can tell you that. I also know that as far as a target, though, if it's too small, Coach talks about pulling. It needs to pull you in a direction. If a target's too small, it doesn't motivate me. Like going to the Palms in Vegas, highly motivational to me. Now, we weren't able to go, but I was freaking jacked and excited about that opportunity because the target was big enough to motivate me and to keep me focused and challenged. But I'm still not thinking big enough. I hear about him making $500,000 in 2 days. I'm like, dude, I ain't doing it big enough. And I definitely ain't thinking big enough. I'm definitely not.
And here's the deal. It's all relative. There's another dude making $5 million in a day.
Yeah.
It's all relative, man. It's all relative to the equation. So here's what I'll tell you. When do you know you're thinking big enough? You ain't. That's a simple way to answer that question. And no matter how big you think, there's somebody thinking bigger. I mean, Richard Branson's sitting there trying to figure out how to get a human to the moon. And he didn't start NASA. He didn't create NASA. He's just a regular human.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is changing cars. I mean, like Elon Musk didn't like the traffic in LA, which is terrible. He's like, man, I'm going to build an underground system. Who does that? So you get around people thinking big. Like I like expansive places. Like this building I'm in right now is huge. It's one of the coolest buildings in Nashville. You can't see it, but there's glass windows all the way around it, panoramic views. Man, when I'm here, it's like big. Let's go. If you're sitting in some little cubicle somewhere, you don't have a window you can't even see out of, you're thinking like this right here. Okay? You need to think expansive. Best thing you can do is get around people who think bigger than you.
No doubt. I've seen that time and time again.
Spend time with them. Be around them. All right. What if the thing you want to be known for has nothing to do with your vocation? Like I love my business, but ultimately, I think that's a great question, Jacqueline. I think your business can be a gateway to you being a philanthropist. Every major philanthropist in the world got their money from their business. There is no money to give to charity if you don't have money coming in from somewhere. I take money that comes in to me, I donate it to schools, charities, churches, all kinds of things. Where does the money come from? My primary business, my coaching business. So the reason you need money is to move and advance an idea forward. Money is just energy, just paper. Okay, so great question, but I think you become a number one insurance person in the world, boom, you're gonna have a whole bunch of money to share with other people.
It's true. It's true.
There's nothing sexy about insurance, folks. I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay, selling insurance ain't sexy. Selling mortgages ain't sexy either. But I got friends right now that are selling 27 to 44 million of mortgages a month. They're making 400,000 or 500,000 a month in the mortgage business right now. You think they like selling mortgages? Heck no, man. It's miserable. Selling a mortgage. But they're using that money. My buddy's stockpiling money. So when he's 50 years old, he's got a bunch of money. So sometimes we got to suck it up and embrace the suck, as Navy SEALs say.
Ron,
Go ahead.
Yeah, Ron says, must the revelation be personal or can it be related to my topic/industry? I mean, mine's related to the industry, I'll have some personal ones, but
mine was related to my to my industry, but it was related more, Ron, to my vocation, to my calling, and my compensation. I love coaching. I'm still coaching, folks. Just because I'm not coaching high school girls basketball doesn't mean I'm not still coaching. The revelation was they will pay me a lot more money to coach over here versus over there. That's the revelation. Okay.
That's it.
What's the best way to get feedback to test your concept? Yes, all of those. Talk to colleagues, friends, family. Push it out to the market.
Yep.
The market will give you feedback. If you go and sing a song or you're a comedian and you don't get any positive feedback and you bomb, it tells you the jokes ain't working, right? If I'm not any good at a conference, it tells me, man, the topic. I remember speaking once at a group. They want me to speak on being an entrepreneur, which is something I never talk about. And I go in there, try to teach a person of interest, Cody, to this group of engineers who were not interested at all in being people of interest. It was the worst, one of the worst hours of my life.
Yeah.
It was awful. They thought I was awful. I thought they were awful. I couldn't get out of there. I didn't sell one book, man. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I'm teaching something I don't really know anything about to a group of people who ain't interested in hearing it. The feedback to me was, that's not the group you need to speak to, and that's not what you need to be talking about.
Yeah. If you have heard, Kevin Hart's story and what he does now and on podcasts and stuff, he's going to he used to go to a lot of small comedy clubs to test out a lot of his material, and he would do that time and time and time again until he felt like he was ready, so even the big time people are still doing a lot of testing.
Ron White, the famous comedian, every time he's in LA, goes to the comedy club and does 3 sets with amateurs every time. Why? Working the muscle. Do you have to have a downline to be millionaires? I'll let you take that, Cody.
Do you have to have a downline to be millionaires in this business? How else can you scale? No. It can help, but you do not have to be. The dude that you're talking about that made $3.9 million, I know you're talking about, and he can do that without people. He's selling. There's like my dad made $200,000 on one policy last year. 5 of those he's a millionaire. In the business. So a lot of people will say that you do, but you don't, because if you're known as the #1 health insurance guru or whatever in the country, and you got enough demand coming in. I know a guy right now that he was actually at 8% SWAT and at Nate's house that Bert met. He does health insurance. He gets about 40 to 60 pre-qualified appointments per week ready to talk to him about health insurance. You got that much demand coming in, you are going to make $1 million, even if you're just doing it on your own.
Yeah. Yeah, and what Cody's talking about is the guy that makes 3.9 that I coached was a big whole life producer. He's got 1 assistant, and she's virtual. She don't even live in the same city. He doesn't have an office. works out of his home,
Crazy.
selling whole life, selling big premiums to wealthy people. Now, he's a master networker. He got involved with me. He went to every retreat. He knows how to find the money. He knows how to communicate. He knows how to articulate. He invented the explanation of service you hear me talk about. He's not selling insurance, by the way. He's selling a tactic. He's selling a strategy. And that's important. Insurance is a commodity. Sell a strategy. All right, let's wrap it up, folks. What's the best way to get feedback and test your concept? We talked about that, Malia. Any other questions? So tonight's homework assignment is, what revelation have you had? Remember, assignment number 1, what both motivates you and fascinates you? What do you want to become known for? Tonight's assignment is what big revelation are you having as a result of this? Are you chasing blue gills or blue marlins? Right? Where could you distribute your talent that you love, man? What's both highly profitable and highly enjoyable? It's important that it's enjoyable. Because if you do it enough, man, you eat banana pudding every day for 10 years, you eventually get tired of eating it, folks.
Yep. I used to ignore that, by the way, Coach. I really did. I used to think that that wasn't as important. I mean, being 24, it doesn't sound like it's as important. But you're right. The longer I do this, the more there's certain things that you enjoy doing that you want to do the rest of your life. And there's certain things you don't want to do. So
what if Cody goes to work all day, does something he hates doing, drains his battery, goes home and has nothing but crumbs left over for Lauren? What kind of life is that? Versus doing something he loves all day, compounding his energy, going home and being excited about the things they're doing together. That's a whole different life, man. Listen, it's one thing to be wealthy. It's another thing to be wealthy and miserable. You want to be wealthy and happy. Right? Wealthy and contributing. So
yes.
I know a lot of rich people that are unhappy. So what you got to do is, we're trying to build a life. Like, it's so cool to meet a person. You go, man, that dude has got kind of everything going. He's got a life going. He's got his faith piece going. He's got his family going. He's got, like, that's what makes him a person of interest, man. They're like operating at a high frequency. So
absolutely.
Good session tonight, folks.
Oh,
I'll send you some notes on this. I'll have Megan send the notes out. We'll also send the replay out like we did last week. Make sure you go back and watch these. It'll be better the second time than it was the first time.
dude, you took it up a notch tonight. I loved it. This was phenomenal. I've only got a few notes myself.
Well, I just came to agreement on a pretty big deal, man. So I'm coming off a big high today.
Come on now.
Right? It's out there, folks. My granddad said, if you got to want to, you can find a how to.
Boom.
It's out there. You just got to reach for it. So congratulations, guys. Have a good night. We'll see you next week.
What makes a person of interest? Coach Michael Burke cuts to the chase, interviewing some of the biggest names in the world. How do they think? What makes them tick? What are their thought processes? And how they became a person of interest.